What's going on, guys? Sekapoko here, bringing you another 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross video. For this, we're going over the news and talking about all the fun things that are going to be happening for 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross for this week, and hopefully we get some cool updates. So, guys, without further ado, let's go and jump right into it. Alrighty, guys, so we're gonna have a brand new event, and as you can see, the slime collab is here. All right, let's do it, boys and girls. So the slime collab is finally here. I'm excited. It is awesome. Look at that. We have the maintenance rate. Come check out the new 7 Deadly Sins content to celebrate the 7 Deadly Sins times Tensura collab. Bro, just call it slime. I don't understand why we're calling it Tensura. I don't know. We're trying to make this fancy. Just slime with it. Tensura. Okay, here it is. The period is between 5:11 and 5:12. There's going to be a 3-hour maintenance, of course, and the 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross that time I got reincarnated as a slime, actually the Tensura collaboration event. They added the Dragon Sin of Wrath Demon Millionaires to the Platinum Coin Shop as well for tomorrow, and that's going to be after it leaves. Unfortunately, regarding these lead for the details in the coin shop. Okay, we'll go check that out just in a little bit, just in case there's any changes. They're ending the event, the Pickup Solar Orbit event. Is that the Escanor banner? I think so. And then their Purifying Step Up event is also being ended as well. I think that's the Liz banner. So more update details will be provided in later notice. So tomorrow, if you want to join us, we're going to be live at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's going to be when the updates come in. If you want to join us live on Twitch, we're always live on Twitch doing the updates. Please be sure to close the game before maintenance, of course, and please be sure to download the update. Slime collab. All right. Okay, so let's go over the slime collab a little bit and talk about what it was like. So first off, the slime collab has an event that is very interesting. As you can see here, you're getting 3 cosmetics for Lilia. You're going to have her headpiece. You're going to also get her weapon as well as her actual character kit, which is going to come with her cosmetic. And you're getting that for free for just clearing this for once. And this is going to contain a boss. For the slime collab, it's basically a boss event. There's going to be 3 different sets of characters that you can fight, and of course, each of them allows you to spawn a boss. It's very similar to the Lilia event if you were watching it happen on the Japanese version, where you're able to fight the team on the field, and then you're able to spawn the bosses. And you can do a total, as you can see, of 3 different fights in total in order to get 3 different demon spawns. The demon spawns that you'll be fighting are going to be the Ifrit fight. Now, the 2 characters that are the primary DPS units for the Ifrit fight are going to be the Rimuru character as well as the blue Matrona Deanne. So if you're looking to have a very, very good damage set against that, it would be those 2 units. Any DPS units would be great here. Unfortunately, Blue Slater is a very terrible unit here, as the boss will start with multiple ultimate gauge. During the slime event on the Japanese version, there was also special tickets that were available that allowed you to get slime characters on the guaranteed. So you were able to, of course, get these specific foods that would actually help you in the raid fight, and also were these slime tickets. The slime tickets give you a guaranteed slime character and be one of the 3 different slime characters. Now, initially, there was actually 2 separate banners, as you can see here. There was actually the first banner, which was the Rimuru banner, which is specifically for Rimuru, and then the second banner actually had Milem as well as Maru. Now, all 3 units I'll be going over in just a little bit. And this is the original banner that we had for the Milem and Maru banner. It was just a normal step-up banner, normal banner. There was no step-ups, nothing special. So hopefully, if it stays the same, then it's actually kind of unfortunate. I'm hoping they actually do a little bit different on the banners. The banners, they were split, since they were split into 2, they were not really my favorite, so I didn't really like that as much. Now, the first unit on the list we're going to be going over, the SR Rimuru, is actually the best long-term unit of the entire batch. And this SR Rimuru is actually a very, very good unit. It's very similar to red SR Liz, where you have that end-of-turn healing type of effect, and that's a super, super nice mechanic to have. Now, he has 2 different abilities, the first one of which is going to be the stance removing the buff and stance removing ability that green Elizabeth has. It's the exact same ability that green Elizabeth has. There's no differences here. And this is going to remove buffs as well as inflict damage to the enemy. Unfortunately, this is going to be not removing a buff on the first ability unless they are going to bring in the buff changes right away as this starts. The second ability over here is going to be a single target heal, which is going to heal 1 target and then heal them and give it debuff immunity, as well as heal all allies and then grant debuff immunity. What's really interesting about this ability, as well as the blue SR Liz ability, is they're really blue SSR Liz, the one that's currently in the game, as well as this Rimuru ability, are very, very similar at rank 3. And the other unit that actually just came to the Japanese version that's also very similar at rank 3 is going to be Red Gloxinia. And Red Gloxinia has the best healing version of all 3 units. And it's really interesting to see that there's a kind of an evolution of these heals, where the original heal was, I believe, was SR Rimuru on the Japanese version, and then went to Liz, and then finally it ended at Gloxinia. So it's kind of interesting that they've changed this around and they have all the same stuff there. But they're like all 3 heals are very, very different at the earlier ranks. The ultimate ability on Rimmer is going to deal damage against the enemy as well as deplete ultimate gauge. So it's very, very similar to the normal Bond ultimate. So if you want to know the Gotcha Bond or Blue Bond, both of them will have the same ultimate as this. It does 630% damage and deplete 3 ultimate gauge orbs and maxes out at 945%. He's also associated with Rimuru. Rimuru is also associated with Milem as well as Maru. So if you wanted to use the SR Rimuru as a supporting unit for both Milem and Maru, he's actually going to give them 23.4% critical damage. And please note this number because it's actually going to be very, very nice later on when you go over some of the kits. The association characters that you can use for him, of course, are going to be Meliodas and Liz, and Meliodas gives me attack. Honestly, the SR Rimuru I actually use more than anybody else after the fact. Next up, we have SSR Rimuru, and SSR Rimuru is going to be the main DPS unit for this fight, but you do not actually need him. You can actually do this fight entirely without the Rimuru. You can actually just do it with Matrona. So if you're free to play, you're not willing to summon on the Slime Collab, you want to save for other units, what I would recommend doing is you leveling up your blue SSR Matrona, and that would be your DPS unit. The reason that would be a good DPS unit is because the Rimuru is the primary DPS unit here because he is a single target character that has the ability Rupture, and Rupture does double damage against characters that have buffs, and Matrona Diane also has the same ability. The second ability for Rimuru is going to be, instead of a single target attack, it's actually going to be a debuff immunity for himself for 1 turn, as well as healing 30% diminished health at the start of the next turn. And then the second tier of this ability is actually very, very nice. It actually gives himself a stance, which actually taunts all enemies for 1 turn and gives him debuff immunity. And the debuff immunity is actually not a buff, it is actually a stance. So it's very, very different than the original one. And then rank 3, of course, has multiple. The Rimuru is actually a really cool character because he actually has a combo attack with both Meliodas for green and blue Meliodas. If you do want to use him, that is a great way to go. It's going to do cancel all buffs and stances against one enemy and do 490% or 560% with the combo attack ability and stun one enemy for 1 turn. It goes up to 840% attack, and the unfortunate thing about Rimuru is if you cannot see his substats, you compare them to Escanor and some of the units that come out later in the game, he doesn't last very long because his substats are very, very low. What's really nice though is Rimuru has a decent passive that increases defense related stats by 8% if the hero takes damage. And I don't believe this is a per turn thing. Actually, just every time he takes damage, he gets 8% defense related stats. Unfortunately, an HP defense build on Rimuru is kind of a weird thing you could build, but he doesn't really gain enough defensive stats to matter. As you can see here, he starts with 10% crit resistance, 10% crit defense, as well as 20% resistance. So he's really not that tanky to begin with, and being able to heal back the HP really doesn't give you enough gains. Next up, we got Maru, and Maru was actually the coolest character of all the batch, and I actually use him more often than I use Milem nowadays, and I use him for the training cave quite often because he does have a weak point ability, and his weak point ability is very, very nice for certain fights in the training cave. Unfortunately, you don't really use him that much outside of this because his passive, even though it looks really good at first glance, is actually not that great. And his second ability, not having the single target weak point just like Jericho, is actually a defense-related stats decreaser on all enemies. This is kind of a cool ability, but unfortunately, it doesn't work really well, and you would think it would work better, but it actually does not. His substats are actually mediocre, and they're actually a little bit better than Rimuru if you look at them here, but unfortunately he just doesn't last very long as far as damage goes, and you can use it. The weird thing about Rimuru, Maru, is that you can actually use him, as you can see here, in Crimson EX, but you can't use his defense skills down on the first 2 phases. You can only use his defense skills down on the 3rd phase. So he's a very difficult unit to use, and he's very similar to Red SSR Bond, where you can only use the ultimate ability on Bond on the final stage, whereas you can only use his ability on the final stage, and you really don't do any other damage throughout the entire fight. His passive ability gives 3% damage per skill that this hero used, and I think it caps at 30%, but either way, it really doesn't give you enough damage. You would see way bigger gains on the Giant Diane, so that's a bigger unit. And his ultimate ability just decreases skill ranks against one enemy as doing damage to them, and that's actually kind of a really weak ability, and he doesn't really scale well at all. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then, of course, as we saw earlier, I guess it's just not on GC database, but he does get critical damage based off of SR Rimuru if you do want to use SR Rimuru. Next up, we have Milem, and Milem is supposedly the best unit out of the entire batch for long-term use, but unfortunately, Milem is not that great, and I really wish she was better. The first thing is that Milem has a spike ability, and her spike ability does double damage against when she does critical strikes, and the unfortunate thing about her critical damage is that she starts at 120% critical damage, but she does have an 80% 50% critical chance, giving her a very, very nice boost. Can you use her in Red Demon? Yes, you can use her Red Demon, but you're going to probably need to bring an SR Slater in order to bring her to Red Demon because you're not going to crit otherwise. The only other way you can do it is possibly with Death Pierce, and honestly, I would not recommend that. Her passive ability gives her increased critical damage by 8% per skill used. So if you do want to spam your second ability and then start ramping up your crits on your first ability, that is a good way to go. But unfortunately, if you just use the SR Lizhawk, you're going to clear the run so much faster than you would ever do with Milem. So she's really not a good red EX character. For PvP though, she is a pretty cool character, and I will go over why in a little bit. Her second ability, which is really, really nice, is is super cool. It actually inflicts damage equal to 60% attack on one enemy and disables their ultimate ability for 1 turn. The second rank is going to deal 200% damage against one enemy, and then do the disable ulti for 1 turn. And the third rank is actually going to do a 200% attack to all enemies and disable all ultimate moves for 2 turns on all enemies. So if you were looking to do a multi-ultimate lockout on every single player on the field, you can literally just go and lock everyone's ultis out. It can be cleansed off, so if you do bring an Arthur with your Milem, you can actually lock out the Arthur's, use the Arthur to lock out the healing skills on a Blue King or whoever healer that's on the field and actually prevent them from cleansing entirely. So that would prevent all ultimates for 2 turns, locking out 3 of the enemy cards on the enemy team if they are rushing with multiple characters. Her ultimate ability is also really, really interesting for that second ability, which is really cool. She's actually going to have an ability called Detonate. And Detonate, if you didn't know, is also on the blue SR Arthur. It is going to deal 15% additional damage per ultimate gauge orb on the enemy. So I think it's calculated uniquely per enemy. So if one ultimate gauge on an enemy has 4 ultimate gauge, it's going to do 15% times 4. And then another one has 5, that's going to be 15% times 5. And then that times the actual percentage multiplier. Her ultimate ability does tons of damage. And since she has a extremely high chance to crit already, and she gets critical damage per skill used throughout the fight, you're actually getting lots and lots of critical damage throughout the fight, so she can actually do tons of damage. She's a very fun character to use, but unfortunately she has a very high HP pool, kind of a low defensive stat, and a very high attack stat. Her pierce rate is at 0%, but her resistance rate is at 60%. So she's very weak against critical strikes and very weak against characters that have high resistance. So anybody that you're fighting on the field, say Gother, that has high resistance, not the best to hit. So you're probably going to need somebody that lowers resistance value on the enemy, like say Gustav, if you wanted to really just exacerbate her viability. But unfortunately, since Gustav is also an SR unit and you can't get weapons on him, he may be not the best choice to bring. And of course, if you do use SR Rimuru to get critical damage, you get even more critical damage on your character, and that would probably be the best possible association unit because she can scale very, very well off critical damage with her first ability. The last unit on the list, of course, would be Green Lilia, and Green Lilia is going to be a character that is the talk of the town. She is the best character out of the entire Slime collab because she lasts the very, very longest. And she does have viability in future teams, and she counters the Blue Lilia meta when there is Valenti out. There is actually an entire team that's based around Green Valenti with Green Lilia, Marlin, and Green Gilthunder that completely shuts down Blue Demon Meliodas and Blue Lilia teams, and this character is a phenomenal unit for that. Her first ability, it does 180% damage against one enemy and decreases attack-related stats by 20% for 1 turn. And then it'll do the exact same damage on the second ability, but then reduce it by 30%. And finally, does 300% attack against one enemy, but then reduces attack-related stats by 40%. Her second ability is the huge ability, which is very, very nice for her kit. It increases all damage taken by all enemies by 20, 30, and 50% for 2, 2, and 3 turns. Her ultimate ability is really, really similar to Hauser's. If you didn't hear me go with this unit before, she's going to inflict damage equal to 350% damage to all enemies and increase skill ranks. And if you do want get her max ultimate, she maxes out at 525%. She is a very, very good unit in the game, and she has a very nice passive that actually decreases all enemies attack by 16% in PvP. During the slide collab on the Japanese version, we actually got a maxed ultimate on Green Lilia for free, so if you are looking to do so as well, we do not know if Green Lilia is going to be a completely free unit, but we will find out tomorrow night, and we'll know more if we're getting all of that. So the number one question I'm going to be asked, of course, in the comment section down below is going to be, hey, Seka, should I pull on the slime glider if I'm free to play? If you want the slime units, they haven't come back on JP, you can pull on the banner. They aren't long-lasting units. You don't need to pull for them. They are units that you're pulling just because you want the units. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're probably an adult, so you can figure that out. Is it the best idea to pull? Probably not, but you're gonna pull if you want to pull for the units. Do you think that it's gonna be a really, really good set of units that's gonna last a very long time? Probably not. Think it'll be fun as fuck to use? Hell yeah. If you're big whaling, or should you whale on these? Milem is pretty boss. If you're big whaling and you're looking to pull on this banner, Milem is ridiculously fun. So you'll have a ton of fun with her. Unfortunately, Escanor is live, so that will be a problem. But Milem is a ton of fun. So if you don't find an Escanor comp using Milem, tons of fun. But having said that, guys, my name's Sekapoko. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be going over this more again tomorrow, as I said, but 7 p.m. Pacific Daily Time. So if you do want to check it out on twitch.tv/Sekapoko. But having said that, guys, thank you for watching. If you guys will like and subscribe, we get lots of likes in these videos. So thank you so much for all the support. I really do appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Peace.